So thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate your presence here, and I'm glad to be back in Barcelona. And tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Pokemon Go within the social, mobile, augmented reality app that people are using for fun, but it's also been shown to do great things for people's mental and physical health. So my name is Chai, and I come from Palo Alto, which is near San Francisco. And I am a managing partner at Ideagoras. It's a small agency based in Madrid. And my Twitter is CHIAH. Feel free to find me there. So what are Pokemon? Pokemon is a game that came out of Japan in 1996. And the creator of it called them pocket monsters. And his name is Satoshi Tajiri, and he was autistic. So when he was a child, he loved going out and collecting bugs and tadpoles. And he would kind of look around and say, okay, so this kind of bug likes to be in this kind of an environment. This is where I find them. So he was cataloging bugs and tadpoles as a child. And so when he became older and he started wanting to make games, he was like, oh, I wonder if I could take that obsession that I had as a child for collecting bugs and make it into something where kids all over the world can collect virtual bugs and monsters, and that the monsters would have evolutions, like like a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. So what are the different evolutions of these pocket monsters that he was creating? So he's creating this whole world where you would be able to find certain types of monsters in certain types of environments. And this originally came out on Nintendo, on their systems, but he's turned it into a worldwide empire since 1996. So Pokemon Go, everybody says, well, Pokemon Go, is it dead? It was huge in the summer of it's not dead. I know. In 2016, it hit the world like a tsunami. It was a mobile app phenomenon. It surged quickly to attract a really huge audience, but kind of came down to earth, right? So in the early days when it first came out, 28.5 million people were playing the game. And then by December of that year, it was down to 5 million. But 5 million people a day is still a lot of people. So some facts. In the first month that the game came out, it made $207 million. Just in July 2016. And there were 28.5 million in the US and 45 million global daily active users, which is huge. And by December, that number was 5 million in the US. But 1 year ago, in May 2018, 147 million global monthly active users. And by September of 2018, 1 billion downloads. So that's a billion with a B. So revenues. So this is just the in-app purchase revenues. And I'm just showing you these numbers because I want to tell you that this is a game that has some staying power. And this is from people playing the game, spending $1, $2, or the equivalent in euros when they play the game. So if you want to do certain things in the game, you have to pay a little bit of money. And so this is not the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people are not spending money in the game. And so if they're making $2 million in revenue as of September 2018 and 2.45 by March, so in 6 months, they made $450 million just from people spending $1, $2 at a time. 800 million in revenue in 2018, and they were making $200,000 a day in April of this year. And they also raised money, and their valuation's at $4 billion. So, and again, this is in-app purchase. So IAP is in-app purchase. So you can see this compared to other games, it only took them about 811 days to start making $2 billion from the launch. They reached 800 million in consumer spend very, very quickly in under 3 months. And the lifetime breakdown, which is kind of like you can see how many people are playing in different parts of the world. is kind of a proxy, not a great proxy, but you can see Japan is about 33%, the United States about 30%, and other is all the other countries in the world. It's the other 30%. So this is reaching a global audience, not just in the developed world, but also it's big in Brazil and it's huge in India. Compared to other games in monthly active users, so you can see, this is just on Android. It's the 5th most used game on Android. And this is after Google Play and Candy Crush Saga. So they're really, really reaching a wide audience. It's, compared to other location-based mobile games, they're pretty much the market. So, so I will go into what is a location-based mobile game. So it's, like I said, this is a global phenomenon. So you can see that it's not just the US. The US is 16% of the downloads in 2018. The rest, 84%, coming from other parts of the world. So player facts. It's 84% of the market in location-based game category, 92% of the revenue in that particular category. It's not a very crowded category, but still. 60% of the users are 18 to 34, and 32% are under 18, and 43% are female, which is unlike a lot of video games. A lot of video games tend to skew towards more male, but this is almost 50%, so there's a lot of women playing. And $52,000 is the average household income. So it's people who are doing pretty well financially. So there's been studies that came out, academic studies that came out, and one that came out of Stanford and Microsoft. It showed a 25% increase in baseline daily steps. So it's an average of almost 1,500 steps per day that they wouldn't have been doing if they hadn't been playing this game. The University of Tokyo found that the players over age of 40 walked more than the non-players, and for the ages of 55 to 64, the players walked a lot more than that same cohort. It's also converting non-mobile time to mobile gameplay time. So people are not saying, okay, instead of using my phone to play a mobile game, they're just saying, okay, instead of doing something else, like maybe sitting at home and watching television or whatever else they might be doing with their free time, it's converting it into, okay, I'm now playing a game outside with other people, usually. So this is a really amazing statistic. So if you look at it, on Android, total time spent in the top 20 games, Pokemon Go is 45% of the time. So this is total time spent. So people are really engaged. The people who are engaged are very engaged with this game. So the prime time is weekday evenings and weekends. And 57% of the players are playing 1 to 3 hours. There's 29% that are playing, more than an hour a day, but 14% are playing more than 3 hours a day. So this is the people who are very engaged with this game. 68% of the people say that they just play as they're going around their day, like if they're running an errand or they're out and about, hanging out with their friends, they'll just open up the app and play the game. 54% are playing alone, but you see that 46% of the people are playing this socially. So they're going out with their friends, they're calling them up and saying, hey, I'm going to go out and play Pokemon Go, do you want to come with me? So, and there's reasons why this number is really high, and I'll go into that a little bit later. So the basic game, in case you haven't played, what you do is you go out in the real world, and the GPS in your phone tells the company where you are. And based on that, it will spawn a virtual monster. So you see it on your phone, and you flick the ball at it to try to catch it, try to capture the little monster. So it's a game layer on top of real-world points of interest. So how do you know where to find them? Well, so do you see how this is the Pokestop of Old City Hall, and it shows up as a picture in your phone, And so if it says, hey, this Pokemon is close to Old City Hall, you have to get yourself to that physical location in order to be able to capture the monster. So it's like these different layers of reality. So this is the game layer. I'm going to call this the real world layer because it's the satellite phone. And then this is the map layer. So you can see it's kind of bringing this intersection of this game layer into the real world. Because you have to be in the place that this Pokestop is or this monster is in order to be able to interact with it. Otherwise, you can't. It'll tell you you're too far away or the Pokemon will not show up on your screen. Any questions? I see a puzzled look.
No.
Okay.
Why is a percentage of female players in this game? Why the percentage of female players is higher than in other games? Why? Do you know the reason?
I think it's because it's a cooperative game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it also is not something that you have to go out and shoot guns or virtual guns or kill things. It's not bloody. It's a game that is really built on social play, and I think that's why it appeals to more women than other games. And it's really a few different things. I'll go into the different mechanics that they use to get people engaged, and I think that might help answer the question, but we can also talk about that a little bit more after I go through all the things that they're using to get people to play. Yes?
You said that basically is the category,
yes.
The location-based games category is Pokemon Go.
Yes.
But you also said that it's not that big, the category. Do you know how big it is?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Because it's kind of hard to find that out. But it's pretty much most of the category. It's 92% of the revenue in that category.
And in the regions where, like in Japan or in the US,
mm-hmm.
where there are more players,
mm-hmm.
are the healthcare professionals recommending to play Pokemon Go?
I don't think anyone's recommending it as a health
mm-hmm.
Thing,
mm-hmm.
but I would love to encourage people to think about doing that, because this has been a really interesting community and subculture that I think a lot of people are not aware of. Mm-hmm. So when I've gone out and played, the age range is 4
mm-hmm.
to 80 something, and the retired people are the most engaged with the game. So they go out in the morning, they have their routine, right? Like they tell me, because I've talked to them. I mean, I normally wouldn't meet a lot of retired people, but I've met quite a few playing this game. And they tell me, like, yeah, I have this routine in the morning. I get up, I spin these stops, I go to these gyms, I go and collect these coins out of the gyms, and then I go on a few raids, and then, I walk around for the rest of the, morning catching Pokemon. And then I'll meet people at a raid, and then we'll trade Pokemon. So it's like this whole thing that keeps them very active.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you have any information about which customer group broke away when the sharp decrease came? Do you know if that was more on the youth side or more on the retired side?
So there's a question about the age breakdown for people who stopped playing. I'm not really sure. I don't have those numbers. I'm sure Niantic does, but I don't think they share that. Okay. So, yeah, Niantic has a lot of data on us, the people play. Okay, so I will go on to the next. So points of interest. So points of interest become gyms and Pokestops. So gyms are places where you can interact with a point of interest by fighting other Pokemon and putting them in the gym, and that's how you get coins for the day. And Pokestops are the places where you go up to it and you can spin it to get items. So you get balls, you get things that you get to use in the game. And the daily engagement is driven by rewards. So they really reward people for playing every single day. So when you first spin your stop, it tells you, hey, this is your first Pokestop of the day. You have a 4-day streak going, and so they really want you to like do it every day for 7 days, because at the end of 7 days you get more rewards and more in-game items. And again, you catch a Pokemon every day, you get first catch of the day streak, so you get more points for catching that first Pokemon. So it keeps people like going, okay, so today I have to do this at least once. And then there's also research tasks that you do once a day. And you have to do one to get the stamp, and once you get the stamp and you get 7 of them, you get a really special Pokemon. And so this is how they keep people like, okay, I have to play this game to try to get everything. So I can catch the special thing at the end of the week. So how are they getting people together in real time? So there's raids and events. So I'm going to tell you quickly about raids and events. And it's building a hyper-local community. And how they're doing it is they're doing time-limited, I guess you could call them events, small events, where you go up to a gym and you have to fight the monster. So you can see on that, it tells you you have an hour and 45 minutes to find that gym, show up, and bring your friends, because you need a certain number of people to be able to beat the monster that hatches out of the egg. And if you don't have enough friends who come with you, you have to find other people in the area to help you beat that monster. If you don't have enough people, you can't beat it. Like if you only have one person and you're trying to beat something that takes 5, it'll say, well, okay, so it'll let you do it, but you just will not be able to defeat it fast enough to catch it. So it's very limited time. So once it hatches, you only have 45 minutes to get there, and you have to get there all within the same time frame, because each raid doesn't take that long. It only takes about 3 minutes to actually raid. But that means that you have to get people all there at the same time. You have to coordinate. And so it's hyper-local because you see the same people who either work in the area or live in the area. And you'll see the same people over and over again. And after a while, you start talking to them. It's kind of like the old times when you'd have like a local corner store, and you'd see the same person at the store over and over again. And that's how you became neighbors and friends. And so it's really bringing that kind of community back into the larger cities, I think. I mean, you can also like go to the raid and not talk to anyone, but at least for me, I like being social. I like, if I've seen you there, in the last 10 days, and we keep kind of running into each other, it's like, oh, hey, what's your name? And the game also incentivizes you to start interacting with the people that you meet that are also playing. So the raids are cooperative, timed, and location bounded. So you have to go to that location to be able to raid. It's cooperative because you have to have that number of people who are there, and you're incentivized to help the other people, because let's say you don't know how to play very well, and you show up and you're a lower level, and we all need your help to be able to beat the monster. I'll say, okay, so you want to use this monster and not that one. This one's more powerful against this thing. I mean, I don't know that much about Pokemon because I didn't really grow up with it the way that a lot of people I meet who play the game have. So they'll say, oh yes, well, this one is a stone-based monster, so it's good against this kind of, other, the psychic or whatever. I cannot keep track. But the people around me will tell me, okay, this is what you need to do. And so it fosters that kind of interaction when someone like kind of glances over at your phone and goes, oh yeah, you don't want to use that one because I want your help to beat this monster. You want to use this one, this one, this one instead. So it's this kind of these kind of little interactions that you end up getting into when you're at the same place at the same time. So you can see it says a lot closer to interact with this gym. You're not close enough. You have to get up to that location to be able to play. And it shows you, here are the 7 other people inside who are going to do this raid with you. So you see them on your screen. All right. So last weekend, I was in Palencia, a small city in Spain. I knew nobody there, but because I had friends who needed to be in the area, they said, well, we're going to drop you off in the downtown area, you can walk around. And I said, all right. So I knew there was a special event going on, And so I found a few gyms, and I was kind of looking around, and I was like, oh yeah, that giant group of people, they're playing. So I found this group of about 50 people who were playing Pokemon Go, and I don't speak much Spanish, and they didn't speak much English, but I was like, hey, Pokemon Go. So I ended up making 7 new in-game friends, and we communicated well enough to be able to trade, to be able to raid, to be able to catch Pokemon. So it's it was funny, right? Like, I didn't know anybody in the city, and I just showed up, and I wasn't connected to them through any other means. So there's no way to message people in-game. Niantic really said, you know what, we don't want to deal with all the headaches of people being able to message each other in the game, and so what you have to do is you have to find the other channels that people are communicating on. So there's this whole subculture of how do you communicate with other people to tell them which raid we're all going to. So it's different in different parts of the world. I've been asking people. So in Madrid, people are using Telegram. In Valencia, they were all using WhatsApp. In the US, they're using Discord. So it's outside the game, but you have to find the channel where people are talking. There's some people who are talking on Facebook Messenger. So it depends on the local community, what they decide that they all want to use to communicate with each other. So this is a crowd that showed up on a community day in Mountain View. So I don't know how many hundreds of people were there that day, but it was a lot of people. And they're also having special events. So they had an event in Chicago. They had a special event in Japan. They also had one in Germany. And this is like kind of invite only. They make it a little exclusive, so you're not guaranteed to get in. People are flying in from all over the world sometimes to go play the game. And there was an event in San Jose, California that drew 30,000 people. Like 30,000 people opened the app to play this game. It was crazy. People were coming in from all over to play the game. So it's very social. So there's social and gifting. So gifting means that you can spin a Pokestop, you get a gift, and you send it to your friend who's in-game. And since it launched in June of last year, 2.2 billion gifts have been sent. You can now do snapshots. You could take your Pokemon that you captured, take a picture of it, send it to your friends through social media or however you want to send a photo. The trading launched last year, and it used active players to bring back the players that were playing in 2016. And I got brought back by one of my friends in this way, because they said, so, you were playing the game in 2016? I said, yeah, but I got bored of it. And they said, log in now. I need a new friend for this new field research. And if you have a Pokemon from 2016 and you trade it to me, then we'll both get lucky Pokemon. And I was like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about, but they were really insistent. They said, no, really, log in. So I spent hours trying to log back into my old account. What was my password? What was the email I used? So it's really interesting how they're really using social to drive engagement. And I think they're being really smart about it. So this is sort of social mixed reality. So a game, the gift. So what you do is you spin a Pokestop, you get a gift, and this is what it looks like. And it's like a virtual postcard that someone can send you from anywhere in the world, around town. And then when you open it, it gives you in-game items that you get to use. It's cooperative gameplay. So you walk around with your friend, you will see the same Pokemon, and you are going to help your friend catch them, right? If you see a really rare Pokemon, you go, oh wow, look over there's a Bronzor, let's both go and get it. So you both can go and capture it. It's not like I get there first and I catch it and you don't have a chance at it. It's the same Pokemon. So if I say, oh wow, that one has really good statistics, you'll get the same one. And there's a thing called the radar on this, and your radar will be slightly different than mine. So you'll see a different Pokemon on the radar. So when we're playing together, if we're walking together, I have a better chance of knowing what's around me because I have more people around me. Whereas, I only have my radar, and I only get my 9. So if I have more people, that means that everybody gets 9, and we all have slightly different ones. And so maybe you'll be able to see a more rare Pokemon that's not on my radar, and then we can both go catch it. So this is, this, as you can see, they're seeing the same map, and they're seeing the same Pokestop. So the other thing is you can say to your friend, oh, what, I just found this Pokestop. It has a really, really good, field research today, because you'll get a really rare Pokemon once you complete the field research. So that kind of, they put all these little cooperation things in there. So you can play it without it, but it's much more fun if you have your friends who are also telling you, hey, this is what's going on around you. So driving user behavior. How is it driving more steps? Because it's showing you on this radar a rare Pokemon. So now you have to walk over and find it. So it shows you on the map, like, oh, look, there it is. The little pink footprint thing, that's where you have to go. So you have to navigate your way over there. And then once you get over there, it'll show you new Pokemon because you're in a new place. And it'll say, oh, now here's what's nearby. And it prioritizes the Pokemon that you don't have. So you're more incentivized to go, oh, I have to go find it. There's also another mechanic called egg hatching. So you get eggs in game, and you have to put them in incubators, and then you have to walk 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, or 2 kilometers to hatch them. And it's a surprise. You don't know what's going to come out of that egg. So it's a little bit like surprise and delight. So it's using that mechanic. Like, okay, I just have to walk another few kilometers, or another half a kilometer, and I'll find out what's in the egg. Okay, so I'm going to go out and walk. And they also have a different mechanic where if you walk a certain number of kilometers in that week, you'll get something special if you walk 50. And so I have known people who are like, okay, it's Sunday night, and we know that it's going to be Monday that you're going to get the special thing, and I am at 49.4 kilometers. I just need 0.6. Like, I've known people who are like, okay, I'm in my pajamas. We're going to put on our shoes and go walk that final, 0.6 kilometers just so I can make sure on Monday morning I get the special item. So it's a funny little thing. It's tiny though, right? It's not. These are not big, right? These are little things that are driving human behavior. You can put up cooperative lures. So for every Pokestop, if you have a lure, you could put it in that lure, and it benefits you, but it also benefits anybody who walks by. So strangers, your friends, whatever. It just makes the Pokemon spawn faster, and it shows up in everybody's map. So the Pokestop will have these pink petals, and every 3 minutes a new Pokemon will show up. And if you've played the game in one area and you don't have a lure up, if you've captured all the Pokemon, no more will spawn. So you have to go walk, because it takes half an hour for them to respawn. So you have to walk and find new ones. So if you really want to play the game, you can't just sit in one place and go, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and catch Pokemon. So a Finnish university study found that there was a positive relationship between players' emotional, spiritual, and intellectual wellness. There was a University of Wisconsin-Madison study where players make new friends and strengthen existing friendships. And I would say that's been really true in my experience, because the people who got me to play again, they actually have kids, and I didn't see them that much. But when I started playing the game again, they'd be like, okay, so are you coming out? We're coming out. So we're going to pack up the kids, we're going to go outside, so you're going to come with us on this walk. So I hadn't seen some of the people who had two children for quite a long time, but suddenly they were like, hey, you want to go out and, catch some Pokemon? And there's a lot of anecdotal reports on social media from people who are saying on Twitter, you know what, playing Pokemon Go has helped my social anxiety. Pokemon Go has, helped cure my depression because it gets me up and out of the house every day so I can meet people to play the game or capture Pokemon. So it's not a huge study, but there's been a lot of people who've said, this game has helped me a lot in terms of mental health. So the raids, it's local friends and social pressure because you need other people to come out. So you're incentivized to call up your friends and say, okay, who's coming? We're gonna all meet at 10 in the morning at this raid because we all want this monster really badly. It's rare and it's only here for the next 4 days. So let's go. We're all gonna go and get it. So you really kind of get that social pressure because you're like, if you don't come, we're not gonna get it. So you get your friends, that way. Or maybe, it's your turn the next day going, come on guys, let's all go. And it's a completionist thing, right? This is the other mechanic. You want to collect them all, right? You want to be the person like, oh, I've got all the Pokemon. There's a lot of them now. There's 400 and something, but when we started, it was about 150. And they also have special shiny Pokemon. It's a slightly different color. They spawn at a rate of 1 in 450, so you have to encounter 450 of this Pokemon to maybe get one of these. And there are special events in which they spawn more often, so the rates are higher. And so that gets people out, right? Like, you're like, okay, I gotta go find this rare Pokemon. It's only gonna be here for the next few hours, so I better go and get one now. So it's kind of like, for showing off, right? Like, you're like, oh, I have this special shiny one. So it's kind of like a little bit of gambling, right? Because you don't know if the next one, because it doesn't show up on the map as shiny. You have to click on each one. And once you click on it, then it says, oh, I'm shiny, or I'm not shiny. So another one, player engagement by trading, or I call it social gambling. So you can trade Pokemon between your friends now. And it costs a certain amount of in-game currency to be able to do it. And you also have this mechanic of, if you want to do an evolution, you need candies for these Pokemon. So some Pokemon only take 12 candies, some take 50, some take 100. And if you can trade with your friend a Pokemon that is you caught them in more than 100 kilometers away, you get 3 candies. So you get a little bit closer. So you're kind of incentivized to take your Pokemon and trade it with your friends so that you can get more candy so you can do the evolution faster. And there's also lucky Pokemon. And that means that you get to spend less of the in-game currency to power it up, to be able to go fight at the gym, to be able to use it in player-to-player battles. And why is this important? Because you have to trade with your friends. You can't get this any other way. So you're incentivized to go out and find other people who are also playing the game to trade with you. And you and I are strangers, but you might have something that I really want, and maybe you've traveled lately from somewhere else. And that's why in Palencia they were like, oh, so you want to trade, right? Because they knew that I had Pokemon from California, and for everything they traded me, they would get 3 candies for it, which is, faster evolution to whatever it is that they need to get an evolution of. So, any questions on just the gameplay? I'm going to go back into the history of this game a little bit, just so you kind of know where it came from.
So the game fosters social interaction.
Yes.
Physical activities.
Yes.
And cooperation.
Yes.
Regarding physical activity, what kind of metrics does the app provide?
So the app only provides you how many kilometers.
Just the distance.
That's pretty much it. It just.
It's possible to obtain the kilometers that I use it in the app?
You can if you click on you.
Yeah.
And it should. So it shows you if you walked 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, or 50 kilometers.
That's it. You don't get calories or.
No. You just get.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Question regarding the new initiative where you can trade old Pokemon for new ones.
Yes.
Get rewards. Did they really see an increase in players now since they launched that initiative?
I think they did. They haven't announced that,
Okay.
but just from the numbers alone, the fact that they had the best month that they had since launch,
Okay.
May, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of API or something like to customize this game for a specific, for example, for a health care institution or?
So the question was, is there an API for customizing this game for an institution? The answer is no.
Is it in the roadmap or no way?
So they're actually coming out with a new game called Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're trying to use this engine that's underneath. So I'm sure if you paid them enough money, they would probably build something. But I'm not sure what that enough money is because they made $800 million in 2018 from players.
But this is just for consumer. It's oriented to consumer.
They actually. No, that's not true. So I'm only telling you about the consumer spend. They actually have brand tie-ins. So every single Starbucks in the U.S. is a Pokestop or a gym. And they were getting crazy money from that. It was 50 cents per impression spin. I'm not sure if that's the price now, but that was the price at launch. So, there are brand tie-ins. They've tied in into quite a few brands internationally as well. So, yeah, they're happy to take your money.
Yeah.
All right. So, where did Niantic start? So Niantic is the company that built this game. So they came out of Google, and this is the tech underneath. So I'm not talking about the Pokemon because the Pokemon it's separate licensing. This is, how did we even get this? They started at Google, and it was originally a joke. It started off as a April Fool's Day, like on Google Maps you can go find Pokemon, and the original game predated that joke. It was called Ingress, and it was a very, very science fiction geeky game, and it definitely did not have the sort of wide appeal that this game has. It looked like this. It was very, black and dark. There were portals. You went and did things at them. It was based in the real, in the real world, like the game is. But Pokemon Go basically reskinned this game. So yeah, it started as an April Fool's Day joke. They were like, hey, you know what? Wouldn't it be funny if we, put Pokemon on our Google Maps? Yeah, that would be hilarious. So they did it, and then they were like, wait a minute. We have a location-based game where we can actually do this. So I think that's when they started talking to Nintendo and doing this. How did they populate the data? Points of interest from maps. So, I know people are like, can I build this? And it's like, well, yeah, if you have that kind of resources. So I'll tell you what kind of resources you need. It's a lot. First of all, you need a whole map of the world. And you need the points of interest. So Google was gathering all that data already for maps, right? Like, what's a point of interest? Churches. So in the beginning, it was like, okay, so churches were automatically in as a Pokestop. Museums and aquariums. Yeah, points of interest. Okay, we know where they are on the map. We'll just make them a thing, like inside the game. Libraries. And these photos were user-generated. So they crowdsourced it. How did they crowdsource it? Well, they're Google. They were like, hey guys, we're all at Google. You guys want to go out and take pictures? This came from Ingress, right? So Ingress players were taking photos of real-world places and putting them in the servers so that they could use it for Pokemon Go. So in the beginning, when Pokemon Go first launched, there were certain things that really shouldn't have been in the map. Like people that put in strip clubs, like kind of not cool for a children's game. But they cleaned that up. There were sometimes like private property, like items on private property that the people who own the property were like, we do not want this, so they could write in and tell them to take it off. But when it first launched, like there are some churches that are not friendly to Pokemon, so like they asked to be taken off. So it's yeah. So there's San Francisco Zoo. So it's crowdsourced, real world location markers. That photo was taken by somebody. a user. So, it's not like Niantic sent out an army of people saying, okay, now I'm going to take all the pictures. So, if you're wanting to build something like this, it's quite an undertaking. Yeah, user generated. So people now instead of just the park, you can say the statue at the park. And a lot of restaurants and cafes were using this, like, hey, come in and play the game, be here. So the future of this game, we'll see. We don't know, because they are launching a new game. They're launching the Harry Potter game shortly. It's been delayed, of course, and it's unknown what will happen with this new game launching. How much of the current user base will suddenly kind of go play the new game? But this is where we are at. So thank you, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes?
I have a question about, speaking about the future.
Mm-hmm.
I just read that in New York they are planning to fine people because of walking around and watching their phone, which is something that everyone's do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not law yet, but apparently it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it affect to a game like this? If people start get fined.
So the question was that there might be a law that's coming in New York where people are going to be fined for walking around looking at their mobile devices. How will this affect the game? I'm sure that it will probably affect the game, but I don't really have any idea. I mean,
has it been criticized by that? Because there are a lot of campaigns around the world about that.
I have not heard about that particular thing, because you're not just staring at the phone. You do have to look for the places, and you're also kind of interacting with your friends as you're walking around. The bigger problem is people who play in their car as they're driving.
Okay.
Right? That's actually been a bigger problem. That's been the bigger discussion of, like, what do we do about the people who are playing while driving? There was one study, I can't remember who did it, but I think it might have been an insurance company, that said that since the game launched, around the areas where there are Pokestops and gyms, the accident rates went up, car accident rates. So I think that's the bigger discussion. Niantic actually has done a lot to try to curb that. They make it so that you can't spin the Pokestops if you're going more than 25 miles an hour. There's things that they're trying to do. Like sometimes if you're just standing still and it thinks you're going too fast, it'll say, you're going too fast, you can't play. So they're trying to curb some of the bad behavior. Yes?
How does the usage rate fluctuate around seasons? Because, for example, in Germany we have a pretty shitty weather from autumn until March probably. And I know from my personal experience that a lot of my friends stopped playing because it wasn't fun to walk out in the rain and have your phone out.
So the question was, are people playing even in adverse weather or in winter? And I think that the usage does drop off. But the same study that I referred to earlier, they found that even basically in all weather, it ups people's activity levels. Like if they're not likely to go out in a rainstorm, they're not likely to go out in a rainstorm, but they're slightly more likely to if they're playing this game. Any other questions? Yes?
Well, I think that maybe the reason that why the people stop to play is not about the weather or something like that. I think that is just the reason is the fashion. I mean, for this reason, the girls play it. Not because the game is not violent, because you can find a lot of games that are not violent, but the women don't play it. I think that the point is the social media, and we don't comment anything about it, because with this game you can share with your cats and your things, and I think this is the big point. And I think that Pokemon Go, it was something like a fashionable thing, and where the fashion, all kind of fashionable things in one time stop. And this, I think, for me, this is the real reason.
Well, I think that in some ways this game hits more of the reasons why women like to play games, right? Like women are competitive. I'm not saying that they're not, but I think it's less about like, I'm going to beat you, but more like, okay, now we're both playing this game. Does that make sense? Like I'm like in a lot of games it's like, oh, I'm going to go out and like, with my buddies and we're going to shoot something, right? This is not like that. This is, we're kind of out walking around and capturing something, and I'm helping you do the thing.
No, I understand. Yeah. Probably this is a mix of things, but I think that we cannot remove the fashionable stuff.
The fashionable stuff?
Yes. Well, I don't know how to explain, but que sea que haya sido una moda. I don't know how to explain in English.
Yeah, that it was a fashion, it was a fad, and like all fashions, at some point all fashions pass for whatever reason.
Yes.
They might come back.
I think it is a mix.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a very interesting game to play with women because it's, how you say, it's not a violence, it's not a competitive.
Right, but I mean, if you look at like Fortnite, for example, that's also fashionable, but the number of women who play is still very low.
Yeah.
Yeah, for this reason I think that it's more or less a mix, because exists a lot of games how the Pokemon Go is. It's not new. He's not inventing something new. I mean, well, see, of course, you can play in the street, but the kind of game is not something new. A game of collect things and share with friends. For example, I don't know if you remember Farmville.
Yes.
The Facebook game.
Yes.
The concept is more or less similar. You take care of your farm, you can share, it's not a violence game.
Yes, and there were more women who were playing that game. Yes.
For this reason I think that it's more or less a mix. It's like a Fortnite, but how it's not violence, it's more accepted by women. I think that no, I totally agree with you, but I think that we need to consider the fashionable thing stuff.
And the reason that and there's a reason for it falling off for people not continuing to do it because it was a fashionable aspect. Because you do see those numbers.
Yeah, you do.
Sure,
I mean, but this is how all games are.
Yeah, exactly.
They kind of launch and they have and then there's a life cycle for games. I mean, but they've kept this going for more than 3 years. And so how they're doing it is they keep launching new Pokemon, like new generations. So I don't know what they're going to do when they run out of because there's 7 generations in the original content. So what's going to happen when they run out of the 7? We'll see.
No, of course, the story of the Pokemon Go is amazing. It's inflection point in the gaming world. Or in the game history.
Well, I also think that the fact that it's a real world social group helps. Because there's some times when you are playing a game and you're a woman online. I actually play video games, and there's a lot of kind of unfriendly behavior that will happen in the virtual world. But this is, you're out there with a group of people, a group of 10 people. And it's like being out in the street, walking around. So it's really not cool to scream at the person sitting next to you playing the game. It's not socially acceptable to threaten them. It's not socially acceptable to, keep asking them out. It's, there's a lot of sort of the social, real life social behavior that is baked into this game, right? Because you can't message people inside the game. So nothing is virtual. Everything is out here. And so the social norms out here apply, right? Like you can't attack somebody you know, the way that you could virtually, and no one can do anything about it. If you started, like, you know, groping a woman because she's playing the game, like, this has been a problem in the VR world, because in the VR gaming, that has happened to women's avatars. Like, you know, somebody's avatar comes up and starts, like, doing terrible things to their avatar. They're like, oh my gosh. But, you know, the police are like, well, it's just a virtual avatar. Nobody can do anything about it. But this is real-world social interaction. If you did that in the real world, somebody would call the police and you would be arrested. So it does make it more friendly in that sense to women. Yes?
Another question, on the one hand, regarding trends.
Yes?
Do you see any trend of actually leveraging these health effects, like somebody suggested earlier, showing calories that you burn, or making more achievements, not only connected to Pokemon rewards, but maybe also for steps taken and maybe improve your calorie deficit or whatever?
So this is all actually, a lot of the stuff I talked about were added on.
Okay.
So they are encouraging people to walk around.
And is there also a connection to other devices? Like, for example, I know that Fitbits and Apple Watches are most favored to use for...
So they actually did launch a thing where it syncs with, it does sync with your activity trackers, like in the phone.
Because I could imagine that a Fitbit which vibrates as soon as you come close to a Pokestop will solve two problems. On one hand, people watching their phone all the time because it vibrates.
You can't.
On the other,
yeah.
track your health system.
Yeah. So the question was about connecting other devices. They haven't really connected activity tracking devices, but you can buy a Bluetooth-enabled device that will tell you when Pokemon are nearby. I'm sorry?
An Apple Watch, for example.
No, it's not an Apple Watch. It's actually a separate little. It's just for the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it does do a thing called activity sync. So it will sync your steps even when the app is not open. That's a new thing that came out. That was not the case when the game first launched. You had to have the app open for a while. Yes?
I have a question related to that one.
Okay.
I know that there has been some attempts to create games like this for health, with a health purpose in mind.
Yes.
But when you tell people to go out and exercise and not to entertain, which is more the case in this case, apparently it doesn't work. So my question would be, why, according to you, why does that happen? If it happens, but I mean, according to the facts, apparently it is what is happening. So the whole trend about games for health, you know, is not nearly as big as
okay. So
this.
so the question is, you know, why is this successful as a healthy activity thing versus the thing that is just called a health game?
Well,
or
actually, it is like in this case, apparently it is about like a health benefit, but
yes.
it was not the purpose of why it was created. You know,
yes.
I just went out playing,
yes.
and I had a health benefit, but it was not what I was looking for. You know,
yes.
The thing is that what I have seen is that when this kind of games have been created for a fitness, digital fitness purpose, it hasn't worked.
Yes, because this is fun, right? So in 2011, when I first started a company, we were trying to build a health activity game. And it was location-based, like you had to go to a certain place and do a certain challenge, and then you'd get like points, or we were trying to figure out how the mechanics were going to work. Of course, we didn't have, you know, the multi-year, you know, probably like hundreds of millions of dollars of licensing behind it. But we were trying to do this. We were saying, okay, so, you know, how can we get people to go out and have fun and be more active? Like, you know, let's say you have to go to these steps and then run up the steps and then run down. We're going to use the gyro and the accelerometer and the GPS to know that you actually did it. And then you get a certain something. we never quite successfully got that off the ground for a variety of reasons, because the healthcare sector is actually very difficult to launch a startup in, as I found out. I have a joke where I say there's a river of money running through healthcare, but it's very hard to get your bucket into that river. So we can talk about why later. But the reason that I think this has been really successful is that they didn't say to somebody, and this, I used to say this when I was pitching the company, hey, now you go run laps. I want you to run a mile, or 2 kilometers in a lap. Do you think kids would want to do that? No, of course not. It's boring, right? Like, oh, it's a chore. I don't want to go run 2 laps and run 2 kilometers, right? But what if you say, hey kids, go out and play tag. You're it. Run around. Play tag. Yeah, they would do that, right? Like, you would have done that as a 10-year-old. Like, go out, play kickball with your friends, or play. It's a game, and humans find games inherently satisfying to do. And so, in a lot of ways, yeah, they're driving behavior, but it's a game. They're not saying to you, hey, now go walk 50 kilometers, right? They're saying, hey, play this game, and if you happen to walk 50 kilometers, you get a special reward. Like, it's an incentive system as opposed to now you have to go do this because it's good for you. And so and I think they're really smart in thinking about how to make it a game and how to make it interesting and fun and how to use all of these sort of psychological tricks that drive behavior to drive behavior, as opposed to saying, okay, now we just want you to go out and walk, or we just want you to go out and do 20 push-ups, or whatever idea that you might have. Go lift weights, or go to the gym, or some of that stuff kind of works, but it doesn't work that well, right? Like the sort of gamification that people kind of put on top, where they say, okay, now if you've done this 10 times, you get a badge or something, right? It drives behavior to a certain extent, but not like this, because this is inherently a game in a social game. And I think that don't discount the social aspects. Don't discount the fact that this is like something that you do in the real world with actual people. It's almost like this kind of like, for me, I think of it as like almost like having a trainer system, right? Like, if you go to the gym, like, I could never get myself to go to the gym. I mean, it's terrible, but if I'm like, I'll be good about it for about a month and a half, and then I'm like, oh, well, it's rainy today. I don't really feel like going in, and suddenly, like, it's been 4 days and you haven't gone. But, for this, it's like, oh, well, I get a reward for doing it, and I get to use it in the game, right? I'm going to go outside and do this thing. And it's also this kind of trainer idea where people are waiting for you. Right? Like, the only way I got myself to go to the gym regularly was I was like, okay, I'm going to pay somebody to actually, like, they're holding me accountable in some way, right? Like, I paid this person, I told them I would be there at 3, so I'm going to be there at 3, and I'm going to do, like, the rowing and the lifts or whatever. But, for this, it's like, you have real-world people around you who are kind of counting on you. So you're not going to show up? So it's that, too. So don't discount the social bit. It's not just the game. It's not just collect them all. It's not just like, oh, now I get to catch more Pokemon. It's like the social aspect is really important. Yes?
Do you think a messenger will come for the app? A messenger in the app where you can chat?
So the question is, do I think that they'll put in-app messaging other players in the app? And I think the answer is no. Because it runs into all of these other problems that I kind of alluded to earlier about harassment, about it's no, so you can't.
Are there any other apps trying to take advantage of the success of Pokemon Go?
So I think
providing a complementary service for the game, for the people playing the game.
So I think that Discord.
I mean, there is a very big community now.
Yes.
Millions of people, as you said,
yes.
playing the game. So there should be an incentive for other developers not to.
to try to like capitalize on the community. I mean, the only thing that I can say is that I feel like there is one messaging app called Discord, where it is mostly for video games, and that's very popular in the U.S. for communicating between players.
But it's not specifically for Pokemon Go, for any other.
No, it's for any video game. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question regarding the new Harry Potter game.
Okay.
I didn't read too much about it, but I mean, there would be the option that you could have like virtual or at the same time real life fights, like magical fights, and this goes against the whole idea that you don't, well, that this game, the Pokemon game, actually doesn't incorporate any violence. But would you think that this violence aspect would make it more appealing, or maybe more like, how do you say, I don't know, but make people like shook from playing this game?
So the question was about the Harry Potter game, which has not launched, so I don't know much. Nobody knows much about it or what it's going to be like. And if you go out and fight other wizards or whatever in the game, if it would reduce the number of women who play, it's hard to know.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what will happen. It's, you know, we'll see. But it's not the same kind of violence. It's not that kind of gory violence.
Okay. Yeah,
And you know, we'll see what happens, because there are games like that are like called MMOs, so massively multiplayer games, and they do have a significant number of women who play. You know, like you have to join a guild, and you have to all like, you know, go raid somewhere, and so some of that has been not friendly to women, because, you know, the men find out that they're a woman, and they, you know, there's like this funny thing that happens. So I'm kind of interested in seeing if it happens to be that you have to find a group of people to go fight something, and it's in the real world again, that maybe it will have more women again, because of this fact that you know, it's a real world interaction, and you kind of can't do some of these terrible things that get done to women who play games online. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be another social experiment. I mean, this game is a massive social experiment, because they're not just tracking behavior now; they're driving behavior, right? Because now they can put something in the game, a new rule, and it kind of drives more behavior in a certain way.
I guess they are running A/B tests.
They run all kinds of tests. You know, we're all guinea pigs when we play, so we kind of accept that as a thing. I mean, they came out of Google, right? So they're collecting all the data.
Do you think that would limit people taking on health games or games for health? That if people thought that they were actually having their health data collected beyond their steps, would that be the limiting factor? Because people are very happy to share maybe their steps, but when you start thinking about games for health, which maybe might track your heart rate, or, you know, in the future your blood pressure, do you think this might stop people joining in? It's a bit theoretical, but
it's a little bit theoretical. People are surprisingly more willing to share health data than you would ever imagine. So I know that, you know, for people, you know, doctors and clinicians, they're like, oh, this is really sensitive data. People have shared all sorts of things, so I don't know. You know, if you have an opt-in, you know, people opt in. I don't have a great answer for you in that sense, other than like from what I've seen, more people would want to share what we think of as sensitive health data than you would imagine. Not everyone. But
helps because they don't know what they can do with it.
yes, exactly. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Nowadays, the pharmaceutical drug market is kind of commodities in most of the diseases. When it comes to diseases such as acute coronary syndrome or diabetes type 2, there are very small differences in the therapeutical options. That's why pharmaceutical industry have to think in new initiatives to add value to their offer. Many of them has embraced social media to educate the patients and to add value to the doctors. Do you see any pharmaceutical company recommending or for making the most of this initiative? For example, administrating a Telegram group of Pokemon Go players, inviting them or just informing them to meet up for a particular purpose so they can walk. Cardio walking is a way of dealing with acute coronary syndrome, or those people suffering depression, which is one of the most. What's your thinking about that?
So the question is, have there been companies that have tried to get people to start playing this game in sort of like a pharmaceutical company or some other kind of health-related company? And the answer is no. I've not seen anything like that. I've not seen any kind of initiative that tries to get people to play the game other than Niantic saying, "Hey, come play this game." So okay. I've not heard of anything like that.
But do you think this is by the existing culture, narrow-minded culture of pharmaceutical companies trying to do the same thing they have been doing in the last decades?
Well, I think in some ways
the regulatory environment, the pharmacovigilance, etc. Why don't disrupt this way of making the most of this travel we are doing from to the participatory medicine?
So I think there's a few things. One is it's kind of a subculture that a lot of people are not aware of. Right? I mean, I asked in the beginning how many people are playing. I had 2 people in this group that said that they were playing regularly. So it's kind of like a slight, as of right now, it's a slightly hidden subculture. It's, millions of people all over the world, but people are not really thinking about it. They're not really aware of this as a subculture. And it's growing. It's kind of getting a little bit bigger. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing is they've added a lot of this sort of, activity tracking and encouraging people to move around more, to go out and walk and to meet other people. This was not the case when they first launched. Like, trading just launched a year ago in June. So June 2018 was when that social feature launched.
I think that to end, as happened with Twitter, for example, it was launched as an alternative to the SMS. Twitter is nowadays what the user decided to be. Actually, the hashtag, as you all know, was not invented by Twitter.
Yes.
By
yes.
a former Google
yes.
Employee.
Yes.
So the point is to make the most of the existing value of that experience, and try to, why not, to make the most of it for the benefit of the health of the people and to provide added value to the doctors.
I can totally see that. I think it's it's definitely something that would be very interesting if you could prescribe somebody a game, like, hey, go play this game, and it'll improve your mental health, it'll improve your physical health, as a byproduct.
It is said that retirement is the worst disease.
Yeah. No, like I
Even
said.
Even worse
Then yeah. Yeah, no, I've met a lot of people who are retired who play this game, and it keeps them active, it keeps them outside, it lets them meet younger people. Like I walk around a lot with somebody I met through this game, and he's constantly like catching Pokemon. He gets to meet people who are young families, that he wouldn't have met otherwise. So I really think that it is a very interesting sort of social and it's a powerful sort of real life community that gets built. So instead of a virtual community, it's a hyper local community, which I think is also very powerful. So.
Do you think it would be possible to morph the main focus of the game that's to look for monsters? If I don't like to look for monsters, maybe a different history could be possible. I will be engaged. I am not in the segment that like monsters, but maybe another thing happens. Thinking of designing variants.
I mean, this is what they're doing with the new game, right? They're basically taking. I mean, so this game in some ways has had 3 iterations. It had Ingress, which was the first one, which was not very popular except among like very, very techie people. Because I opened it up a few times and I was like, boring, not doing this. I opened up Pokemon Go. I became pretty engaged with it, but I didn't get re-engaged until the social aspect really got going. And you know they're learning all the time, and so now they're reskinning it again and putting it into the Harry Potter world. So we'll see what happens. But the other thing I will say is, you might think that you're not into catching monsters. Have you tried?
Is the retail sector the only industry now running initiatives in Pokemon Go?
Yes. Yeah, as far as I know. So Starbucks, Boost Mobile, Sprint in the U.S., and Ito in Japan, and I'm trying to remember all of the other ones, but there's been a few that have tried different.
Only retail.
Mostly retail, yeah. So the Westfield Mall in a certain country has that, or the parent company of Westfield Mall. I can't remember what the name of it is, but yeah, there's a lot of engagement in the retail sector with this because it's actually measuring foot traffic, but it's also driving foot traffic, which is kind of the holy grail of any brick and mortar retail. Like, how do you drive foot traffic to a place?
Yeah.
And you saw what the household income was, so it's kind of prime for retailers.
In
Yes.
my case, I work for a healthcare insurance.
Okay.
And I see it difficult to engage our customers with this game because you don't have any control with this. So in my case, I don't know how can I engage the customer or play or order the game. What will be your advice?
So if you're an insurance company and you want to get engaged, I think it's a branding opportunity.
What's the name? There's an American insurance company in New York offering Amazon gift card to incentivize physical activity, something like this, no?
Well, I mean, for this, I think it would just be more of a branding opportunity. I can't see how to quite make it work as it stands right now.
The problem is that I don't have any control about the game.
Yes.
If I can start a new game with my customers, maybe
right.
It could be a way.
Right.
And nowadays, all the people is fighting or competing against all the people. So
right.
I don't know how to.
Because it's not possible to obtain information from the patient, from the symptom.
Yes.
I recommend the app to my patients.
Right.
It's not possible to obtain the kilometers used.
Right.
Yeah. Currently, it's not possible.
No, it is not. It is currently not possible. I mean, I didn't do this talk to try to fit it into an existing healthcare model. I'm really doing this talk just to say, hey, look, here's a really interesting thing that is happening that is based in sort of AR and MR, which is mixed reality, right? Because this is stuff that you have to do in the real world. and it encourages people to move around, it encourages people to go out and talk to people, and we all know that that increases mental health and also physical wellness. So my talk was more pitched in that direction and not towards like, okay, you're a doctor, you're an insurance company, you're a pharmaceutical company, here's what you can do right now with this app. It's more like, hey, look, here's some really interesting stuff that's happening that is actually driving behavior, and it is not this kind of, sort of overlord, like, okay, now we want you to have more activity, we want you to have this social interactions. It's more like, it's a game. People are playing it, it's increasing their
it's a game, but a lot of possibilities.
Yes.
From different sectors, from insurance, from repair.
But as a doctor, you can already do it.
It's not easy because, well, we have a startup here in Barcelona which is creating games for health, located-based game. And when
we can have this conversation later.
No, that's why I got interested in your meetup. But the thing is that when you switch to the health side, you lose a lot of people, because the driver here is health. You're telling people to go out and exercise, and when you compare the opportunity, it's like $1 billion dollars revenue in the digital fitness against 80 billion in the gaming industry.
Right.
So only Pokemon Go is double size the digital fitness industry. So when you tell people to go out and exercise, you lose a lot of people.
I know.
But when the main driver is go out and have fun, you have a lot of people, which is the case.
Yeah.
The thing is that how do you build something that is somewhere in between, that people realizes that the health benefit without losing them? Because when here's my response, and as you know, I tried to build this company and it was very difficult. So it's a challenge. Not going to sugarcoat it for you. We have to talk later.
Yeah, we do have to talk later.
About that.
Exactly. But my advice is get some game developers. People who build games.
More than physicians.
Yeah. So you want to get people who know how to get people to go out and have fun. And fun needs to be the driver. Not healthcare. In some ways. Right? But I mean, look, if you can build a fun game, and then you can add in the behavioral scientists to your team, then you can start really shaping behavior. But first, you need a fun game.
Yeah.
So,
in digital fitness, actually, what they're doing is trying to gamify the experience. Like converting it into a game.
I know.
But at the end, it's never a game because when you get people looking at Google for something, you have to decide how are you going to be found. And when you say, for example, walking, you start competing with pedometers and some other stuff like that. And
I have some terrible.
You can gamify a pedometer, but it's a pedometer.
Yeah, I know. And I have some terrible numbers for those devices.
Yeah.
The rate of abandonment is very high.
Yeah.
Because, after a while you're like, okay, so, I did 10,000 steps today. It's not fun. It's competitive, but it's not inherently fun. And so what this has done, it's more like this is fun, and you don't feel like I've gone out and walked for 5 miles, 10 kilometers a day because I'm, out having fun with my friends. If you told me, go walk 5 miles, be like, no, I'm getting in my car. I'm not going, I live in California. I'm not going to go walk 5 miles today. Are you kidding? But I walked 10 kilometers. I didn't even notice because I'm socializing, I'm catching on, we're raiding. I'm not noticing that I, on a Saturday, walked 10 kilometers. I go home and I'm like, wow, I walked 10 kilometers. How did that happen? So, I exercised, but I didn't think that I was. And that was what made it possible. The kids that go out and play, They're not going, all right, I'm going to go and walk, I'm going to go exercise. They're saying, hey, I'm going out with my friends and I'm going to catch Pokemon, or I'm going to go raid, or I'm going to, whatever thing that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I had one advice for all the health game companies out there, make it a game first. Don't go, oh, here's the behavior you want to drive, and then we're going to go backwards from that. You want to go backwards from what's a fun game, and then how do we drive that behavior? Not going from okay, here's the behavior, so